Sit right there at the end. We're gonna get started.
Yeah,
Hi,
welcome.
thank you.
All right, so we're gonna call the meeting to order at 5:01 and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
It's like, where is her? I'm just gonna find-
Back here.
All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And I'll just go ahead and take roll since we usually do that anyhow.
Well, it's recording, so.
Is it?
Yeah. Is it right?
It is
That's-
recording,
yeah,
yes, I have
yeah,
it
okay.
sitting out here recording.
Patty Drew
Here?
and Mike Womack, not online. I don't see anybody waiting online. TJ Heacock's not online yet.
I didn't see him either.
Okay. Jan Songer's here and that's it for the board. Thank you.
Can we make maybe a couple adjustments to make sure we're not, some of the people sit here. So I know, for Tammy with the LGIP district reserves, if we could, let me look at this. Maybe we could do the board, it's right there. I see this right there. 1.0.
Yes, that's number.
So if we could bring up maybe the LGIP at 2.2.
Okay,
So we go
move it
through
up to 2.2 and move that.
Is there also discussion on the student body or
No, not on this one.
no?
No.
Okay. And-
Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. All right, so we've moved the LGIP up to 2.2 and then the board vacancy selection process. Does it switch places entirely or just,
No, that'd be easiest, yeah.
all right, I'll move the board vacancy selection down to 2.6. 2.6, okay,
Oh, you're just gonna flip it like that?
it's just a total flip, yes.
Okay.
All right, so moving on with our first item agenda, applicant Ashley Nunn. All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Has the board had a chance to review your application? Okay. So, if you're ready to get started, we will go ahead and get going with our questions.
No, I'll try not to read too much.
The first one, what motivated you to apply for this school board position, especially in our small rural district?
Yeah, so I actually had played around with running for our board, but this position opened, so it's a little faster than I anticipated, but I thought it was a good opportunity. So here we are. And we moved to Jewel in the winter. I had to write notes because I was part of it. We moved here in the winter of 2021, so we've been a Jewel school family since January of 2022. And I have enjoyed seeing the experience that my sons had since we've been here, and I love our small community and want to do a little bit more than just PTO. Not that that's not fulfilling, but this is definitely, I think, something that's in my wheelhouse, and I felt like I should throw my hat in the ring. Ring in the hat.
Hat in the ring.
Hat in the ring, thank you.
And what do you see as the biggest challenges that our school faces right now? And how would you help tackle them?
Yeah, I think it's not so much an elephant in the room because we do talk about it, but the timber obviously I think is the biggest issue for the school. There were obviously some concerns with safety last year, so that I think is also something that we may have to talk about ongoing as a community as we move forward. So those are the two biggest things that I see being the biggest concerns for the districts. I think we have a really strong foundation of support from staff and teachers and the board and PTO. So the community, I don't think needs much help other than maybe engagement. So I feel like that's maybe a place I could help. Also maybe with fundraising and my marketing and development work. I feel like that's maybe a place I could lend some expertise and advice on if budget continues to be an issue or if right sizing has not done what it needs to do quite yet. So I feel like I have some things I could contribute. And yeah, I think I feel like I'm personable, and I hope that I can use that to get out in front of the community and help build a little bit more I don't have any neighbors, and I know a lot of us probably don't have neighbors here either. So that's probably something we could help work on.
Except Patty and I are neighbors.
But we're still half a mile apart, so.
But you can see each other's houses?
No,
No, okay.
No.
but quote neighbors is
Yeah,
close as you get around here.
yeah.
And you've kind of touched on this already, but the next question is, how do you plan to connect with parents, teachers, and students in our tight-knit community?
Yeah, I feel like I've not met any of the board members other than TJ because he was working on my road. But I think that that's maybe an easy low hanging fruit that we could pluck is offering an opportunity for folks to meet the board, right? Be
Mhm.
more involved, have the board do like a story time or something, right? Just something easy to offer an engagement barbecue, right? I know we have these things at the school, so might as well invite the board and encourage them to get involved. But just being more present, being more active,
Mhm.
using the volunteer time I already do and just kind of transitioning it with a different hat. And I think breaking down maybe some barriers. I feel like a board can feel out of touch, out of reach, right? So maybe helping bring that to everyday life and kind of demystifying it a little bit.
That's a good way to put it. Thank you. Ashley, what involvement have you had with schools and school-related organizations? Although we have some idea.
Yeah, this would actually be my first like official be on the PTO board.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be a new adventure for me. Thank you for the question beforehand. Very helpful. I'm glad I got these beforehand. Thank you.
Well, I'm like, I was just prepared. What experience have you had as a member of a board or governing group?
Yeah. So in my young professional days, quote unquote, I was on the board for the young professionals of Yamhill County, which served all of Yamhill County with Midville and Newburgh. And we lived there for a number of years. And while I was there, I also served on the board for an animal rescue. So I've had a little bit of experience in Yamhill County. And then while I've lived in Jewel, I served on the board now for 2.5 years for Cascade Northwest or CAP Northwest. We just rebranded. And they are a health and social services organization that serves Multnomah County, Clackamas County, Washington County, Tri-County area for all sorts of, they do housing, they do HIV prevention, they work with children affected by HIV. So it's kind of a full spectrum of social services board that I serve on.
Which counties again?
I think they serve the Tri-County areas. We're trying to branch out a little bit to the coast too, and they have a camp out here near Tillamook for children affected by HIV.
So
they've got the fingers everywhere.
Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook?
Sorry, a different Tri-County. Multnomah, Clackamas, Washington. And then I think they also do Clark County up in Vancouver as well.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, that's big. Thank you.
Yeah. So they have a number of health clinics that serve that area. They also do housing, they do hospice care. So it's a wide array of services that they provide. And I've been on the board for 2.5 years.
How big is their board? How many people are on their board?
It's a lot. We are the Brady Bunch on steroids. There's about 25 of us.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Wow.
So it's a big board.
It's a big board.
Yeah.
And will you continue serving on that board as well?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like it a lot.
Right.
And there's so many of us, the work is easy with many hands, right? A bigger, an easy lift when there's so many people involved.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. What is your understanding of the primary functions and responsibilities of a public school board?
Yes, it's high level. I imagine pretty similar with a nonprofit school or nonprofit board. And we do, I imagine similar to you all, it's budgetary, policy setting, management of Corey here, right, superintendent, and then not day-to-day stuff, right? So while I think it's important for the board to know about these things, it's not your responsibility.
Yeah.
So high level, but I think also really concerned with the safety and well-being of the district, of the students, of the families, of staff. So not to say that they're not involved in those things, but really not in the minutia of the day-to-day. So that's my understanding.
As people have a wide concept of what the board actually does.
Right, which probably affects the types of emails you get,
Mhm.
the types of requests you get, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
And how do you think a board member should respond to outside pressure?
Yeah, I wanted to ask a clarifying question on this. Do you find this in like in requests, or what kind of pressure are you defining this as? Any pressure?
Well, I can speak, but if anyone else wants to go first,
Go
it's fine. It's really minimal. And I haven't been on the board a huge amount of time. I've been coming to the board meetings for years. But in the almost 2 years I've been on the board, the most interaction has been when there's been a significant event. And it's minimal. Most of it happens at the board meeting. I personally have been out in the community. I'm actively, on the political side of things. And so I'm always out gathering signatures for petitions, and I meet people at Baker's and talk to them and then tell them, I'm on the board, and I'm hoping that invites feedback. And most of the time I just get appreciation for serving. So I feel that the community is in general supportive. I think they understand they can always come to the meetings, they just don't, which may signal apathy, and it may signal basically no urgent needs. It's hard to know for sure.
Yeah.
That's my experience.
Thank you.
And the same here. I mean, unless something major happens, we don't hardly hear
Yeah,
anything. I mean, I've lived here for a bazillion years, and being on the board hasn't made any difference being out and about, Sure, people will stand and talk to me, oh, you're on the board, da, 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 da. But as far as actual bad interaction or even good interaction, it's very minimal unless something happens at school. And then everybody comes. But it's mostly here at a board meeting rather than personal, firing off nasty emails or whatever. I'm not. It's just, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it can happen, but it hasn't. So.
thank you. I appreciate that. And in terms of responding to it, I think hopefully the school maybe has some resources too for you that helps with crisis communications. Hopefully.
Yes, well, and it's my understanding that typically, if I got a direct issue brought to me, I would funnel it through the board chair, and the board chair, superintendent, anyone else necessary would be involved in creating an answer. And if there are press reporters asking questions, again, it goes through the board chair and our school.
And policies, I mean, everything guides.
Yeah.
The district's policy that
Policies.
guides that process.
Good.
Because as I'm hearing you guys talk, and I've been in the union chair for 10 years prior to this position, when I was doing the music gig here. And I've seen things that I'm not going to express here in a public session here. But it always goes back to board policy. If there's ever issues and troubles, that sometimes it could turn into ethics issues or whatnot for board members because they're not following the board policies.
Right.
And it's as simple as that. And sometimes it's frustrating for individuals, all again in the capacity that I've been even in this chair, but even in the union chair for a decade or so. Same thing, that's the frustration, because sometimes we have individuals that don't realize policy actually hold their hands and guides us through that. And that's everyone's security blanket through that.
Yes. Also, I would not advise otherwise. I think it's not the board's job to take bribes, right? Or to be influenced by any sort of outside pressure. That's not to say I don't think you all should be approachable, right? That's not to say you can't be community members because you live here. So I think there's a fine balance, and I really like that there's a clear policy to walk you through what would be best both for the district and board members personally, right? So I'm hopeful that there's like lots of legal precedent set in here for you. And then I also find that would probably be one of my skills too, is to help with some copywriting, right? To prepare talking points if there ever is a press conference that needs to happen. Those are my bread and butter, and I know they're not fun for a lot of people, but I don't think board has to respond. I think it's nice to, and maybe explain that this is not something that we can talk about, but that we're here and approachable, come to a board meeting. Right? So I think there's a fine balance that we can.
And last question already. What do you see as the relationship between the board and the superintendent?
I'm hopeful that there's like a great relationship, right? Open communication. two-way communication is hopefully ideal.
Mhm.
And also, I think a lot of transparency is necessary. A board can feel removed from the day-to-day as they should be, but I also think that they should be aware of issues bubbling, especially when it comes to safety and well-being and on trackness of educational benchmarks and all of the things. And as a parent, I haven't seen anything that's made me question that that's not happening. So I think that's a good thing. And then, yeah, as the manager, right, the person who oversees the superintendent, I see it as a supervisory role, obviously, but hopefully also a partnership role. That would be- that's it.
Any other clarifying questions from our board?
Just curiosity, how many children do you have here at school?
I have one here, and
Okay.
then hopefully another one will be joining in about a year and a half.
Wow.
Super.
Yeah, I am ready for him to join any day.
So they'll start preschool?
I hope so, yeah.
Okay, and then the one that's already here?
He's going into second grade,
Okay, so they're little ones. Okay. Super.
which is why I have a black eye.
Okay.
Hit me in the head.
Notice.
Yeah, been good.
Oh, goodness.
But yes, the little one's been here, or my older one has been here since he was 3.5. So
Okay,
it's-
so he started preschool
Yeah.
too.
which was amazing. To
Yeah.
see him on the bus was a little nerve wracking, but
sure.
adorable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had a really good experience here, and he loves it here. He loves all the staff, and he's just had a really awesome experience. And I'm glad we're here.
Thank you. Well, after we've, met you today and reviewed your application and asked the questions, then we still, of course, have other interviews.
Yeah.
So, I'm not sure the timeline, when we're gonna get back to everybody.
It's gonna have to be part of the conversation here.
Okay,
No worries.
we will follow up.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for us?
You answered my main questions.
Okay.
Yeah, timeline was great. Thank you for that. Yeah, those are my main questions.
All right.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay,
I
thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
Yeah, have a wonderful meeting.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Likewise. Good to see you. Cool.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Then now we are going to go on to the board superintendent operating agreement review.
This is something, I mean, annually, you guys remember working on this one, you both were there. I think I can see you in the virtual room up there when we're in the conference room, we were building on this one. I don't know if you remember that at all. And Vincent Adams was the one who was
Yes.
helping guide us through this here. So the goal, obviously, every year we should be looking at this. As any board that I work with, also we have operating agreements of different sorts here. So I just want to go through this, and if you have any hiccups at all, I don't know if you want me to read all the way through this or not, but I think maybe there's a few spots I would like to hit. And first of all, the first one is the purpose. So the Jewel School District Board of Directors and the superintendent commit to this specific operating agreement to enhance teamwork. And then you could hear Ashley talk about that aspect of it also. And clarify roles and responsibilities for the benefit of all students. And I think you also had mentioned, Patty, that people sometimes think that the roles of the board are more than it is. And
Mhm.
and this does clarify what that is here. So this document reflects our commitment to good governance, collaboration, and student-centered decision-making. And so these two are the first ones. Sometimes we have these discussions in front of, public audience as well as we're doing right now. So the board rules and governance. So the governance focus is the board sets policy and strategic direction and evaluates the district and superintendent performance. The ambassadors represent the district. So you guys are ambassadors, you represent the district positively. And I really do hit that point very importantly because, as we hear more questions and whatnot come through sometimes, you are representative of the district, obviously. And so that positivity is important to the community and support the district goals, but it also allows yourself to be engaged there. The oversight, approve the budget and policies, monitor progress, and ensure compliance with state and federal laws. And then the last one, collaboration, work with the superintendent to establish annual goals and strategic priorities, which we'll see in today's stuff also. There's some things that I want to talk there. And then in my position, the superintendent role and responsibilities. So as operational leadership, implement the board policies, oversee the district operations, manage staff, and ensure student safety. And then communication, provide timely updates on district progress and challenges. And the vision and strategy, collaborate with the board to develop and implement strategic goals. And then finally, compliance, ensure adherence to legal and policy requirements. And I feel as a whole that we are still we're doing those things as a board and as a role of mine here. Meeting protocols. And this is, so I'm on 3 other boards outside of this one for some of my symphony stuff. And this is one that I always find to be a challenge sometimes. But preparation, members will review materials in advance and come prepared for discussions. And I know I'm working with Elise to try to get this stuff out there sooner than we get sometimes. Sometimes we send this stuff out on Thursdays or Fridays. The timeliness. So business meetings focus on actionable board work to ensure decisions and votes are efficient and productive. Work sessions, which is what we're doing here, format sessions to facilitate learning and processing of complex topics, allowing the board to gain relevant information, explore challenging issues in depth. And this is a much more relaxed session here. And then efficiency, avoid marathon meetings by succinctly addressing agenda items. Respecting decorum, I often remind people, we are showcasing how we handle, challenges and whatnot in front of our own community, sometimes in front of our own kids. So members will engage in active listening and respectful discussion, avoid disruptive behavior. And the final one, limit discussions to board goals and district policy priorities. The board will defer tangential, that's a new word for me, tangential or less impactful items, which I'm assuming is things that get off track.
Bunny trails.
A good way to put that. And then communication. So internal, the board communicates directly with the superintendent for operational questions. And then with my emails, I send you guys all the time. I feel like a broken record. I hope you don't mind. I just put them in all. Use the no reply with informational emails to avoid deliberation outside of public meetings. And then external, the chair serves as the primary spokesperson for the board. The board encourages community input through public comment periods and outreach efforts. And so we do provide those comment periods here, and then outreach efforts are obviously more on you guys' own time here. And then no surprises. I think we all agree that's something we try to not get to those moments. Let's see, collaboration decision-making. The board will only hear complaints that follow the pathway prescribed in policy. That I have been here long enough to see that get people into problems here. Not with this board, but I have seen it before. And we'll expect staff in the community to refer issues to the appropriate administrator before escalating to the board. And then the unified voice. Obviously, the board is a unit, not just an individual here. And then the equity lens, consider equity in all decisions, emphasizing student needs and all their voices. And the last one is, from the board to the superintendent, provide clear direction and support while respecting operational boundaries and engage in professional development to enhance governance capacity. And like I said, I'm always an open book. I do hear you. If you have questions, comments, but I do hear you. And then for me to the board, deliver timely and comprehensive information to enable informed decisions, and then foster trust and transparency through consistent communication. And if I'm not doing something, just let me know. I do my best here. Board leadership, ensure effective agenda development and meeting facilitation by setting clear objectives for each meeting, prioritizing actionable items aligned with district priorities, and creating space for meaningful discussion. And then promote a culture of respect and professionalism, encouraging constructive dialogue and adherence to meeting norms, and address challenges and conflicts proactively to maintain focus on district goals. So, for me, these still are very much, I'm sure we've had these for over a year. But I just don't know if you guys want to have any comments about these at all, but to me, they still ring very, very present.
Like, and nothing really jumps out that needs to change. I mean, this is very straightforward in what we need to do.
And I know this is public, so I'm just going to throw it out there. I just keep thinking about my boards. If something isn't working, how do we address that? How does the board, how do we address that? If something's not happening the way, obviously we don't want to embarrass anyone in a public session. I don't think anybody wants that kind of stuff. But if something is that the board chair's responsibility? Is that something the board, you're talking to each other about? I'm throwing it out there.
I don't know, because that's hard, because unless you can't have more than 3 people, 2 people, 3 people for a quorum. Because you don't want a quorum if you're just going to discuss something. So I would think that it would be up to the board chair to have an individual conversation with that person. And then if it needs to go further than that, then have individual conversations or have a meeting or a work session to, if it's something really drastic, have a work session to address it.
Yeah.
But I think to start with, I think it's just that person with the board chair or with the superintendent and board chair, so that you can get it kind of worked out. And then from there, if you can't get it worked out, then call a special meeting, not a meeting, but call a work session to where you can sit and have a discussion.
Okay.
That's what I would think, but
Yeah.
I don't know, that's.
So, yeah, and a lot of the roles and responsibilities that the superintendent has, it shows up in your performance evaluation. We've been pretty consistent on that. And I also believe that it's really the board chair and the superintendent maintain the order of the meeting, and especially they're the most aware of the policies and procedures, would remind us if what we need to adhere to if we may not be aware. I think that's really important. And I think that ensuring compliance with state and federal laws, we could do a little more take advantage of more education and get better thorough awareness of that as just board members.
I know there's trainings for everything out there. There's trainings for myself in this position and boards as well. And I think you're taking some that came out. I know that.
Yes.
But also, but it's overwhelming sometimes how much they have. But that's just an option. It's out there. I know those things are out there. I don't sense a lot of issues, honestly, from my perspective as a superintendent working with the board. I feel like overall this is well done. I think sometimes there's some procedural things during board meetings where I think, okay, I know we're small, but if we're holding ourselves accountable like other boards and other districts as well. And so the conversations I've had with the board chair as well, sometimes about just formats and things like that.
Sure.
Nothing scary, just making sure we're there. I just want to make sure that I was talking to him, just saying, I'd like to have these present, and I'll probably keep them up with me at all times, that if we ever come across anything where just want to remind everybody in a most very professional manner that these are what we all agreed to, if ever something were to come up. So.
Agreed. Thank you.
All right.
And it's worthwhile to review this. Thank you. Any other comments about the operating agreement before we move on? All right, so board goals. 2.3.
Oh, we're gonna move to.
2.6 is now 2.2. So, LGIP district reserves, Tammy.
So I'll jump in real quickly. So let me get my stuff here. So this is something I had just been thinking about for a while with the HCP, and I'll give a report on the HCP at the next board meeting, and the FMP and all the other acronyms. Sometimes in my office, I'm singing the ABCs. I need to laugh sometimes. But so we have a healthy reserve, and sometimes when with my other fellow superintendents in the county, I talk about reserves, and no other district is to that level that we have. And I expressed with the board in public session many times, in that chair over here, that that's a special amount of money that I worry as potentially where the district's future goes financially. And we don't have that magic 8 ball. We've been playing this game with our timber for over 4 years now. And so I'd come up with some thoughts about, during the budget meeting we had, one of our budget committee members said something to the effect, which I agreed with, which is how do I phrase this? Is there a limit where we take our LGIP, our investment fund, where we do not let it drop beneath a certain amount before I go into a moment of, like at home with my bank account, my family, of, oh no, we just can't, for various reasons, for making sure we can make it through the next whatever, payments for house, bills, food, all that stuff. And so I put in here that, is there a specific way we could do a non-discretionary portion of the district's LGIP funds where we legally restrict a specific amount of that, that is exclusively for like capital projects, whether it's for emergency facilities, the infrastructure reserves. So we hold on to that for purposes if we really need it in emergency situations, such as major facility renovations or structural repairs, emergency expenditures, if we need to come into something. Is there something we could do as a whole to make that happen? So therefore, let's say we hit 11 million, and the funds just aren't coming in, the state school funds don't cover whatever, and we haven't been able to bring the district down to that level yet. All of a sudden, we're spending general operating funds out of our LGIP, our district reserves. And our, let's say, quote unquote, our 11 million goes down to 9. Just throwing a wild number out there. And then the next year starts going down from 9 to 8. And we just see the trajectory continue to go down. But there's nothing in place. And I'm, with me in the chair, I like to believe, and Tammy also in the position she's in, that, with talking with the board and that, we would not let that happen. But I can't say that it could happen with the wrong person in the wrong seats. Where just spend and signing into these things and approve these things. And it just before long, you get into a situation where it just takes a small amount of time and whether things are being expressed truthfully or not. Before long, you find yourself in a hole that all of a sudden now you fully rely completely on the state and you have nothing to support yourself through that. So I want to engage in that conversation just to feel overall what the board thought about that aspect of potentially putting some sort of cap on where we can hit the bottom of the LGIP. And I've had that conversation a little bit with Tammy, and so Tammy wanted to chime in with some conversation about that, which she brings up some good points. So I'll throw it over to you here, Tammy.
Well, I really wrestled with how would we even come up with a number?
Mhm.
I don't know how we would come up with a number unless we just said, unless we budgeted every year on what we would get state school fund, and then because beyond what we're receiving for state school fund is coming out, other than our grants, and it's coming out of our reserves. So, I think we've made some good progress this year trying to right size some of these things. But I've asked a few people, and it's one of those problems that other schools don't have. And, I know that some schools, from what I understand, because I did talk about this with the group, and it sounds like they take some of their state school funding and put it into a contingency, and that's like what they have. We do have our unappropriated balance that we have, and that can't be touched. We do have, the roughly $2 million that we have into capital projects this year. But I agree. I feel like we do need to have a floor, but I don't know how to come up with that number. I don't know, because our timber revenue is so unpredictable. It's just so unpredictable. And if we just assumed every year that we were going to, I think it would have to be a multi-year process, because we would, if we assumed that all we were going to get, we budget for just what we would get for state school fund and, the grants that we get, and then all that excess go into the reserves, that would help build it. But is that realistic? And in our small rural area, it's not realistic, because we do have larger expenses than other schools, like electricity.
Well, I was going to say, part of my concern also moving forward is, and it'll be further in some of the other stuff here, but with our new head of maintenance here for the district, our building is 2 decades old, and getting too much into detail, there's some things that we need to be aware of that was not diagnosed with our last department head, and they're not cheap, and they are essential. And so I'll talk more about that as we go through some other things here, but that's kind of what I'm talking about. If we have a situation where we need to keep the district structurally, we're not falling apart completely at all, but if we need some moments where we need to make sure we have the money and the funds to do it. And then say there's some things beyond that. And I'm looking at our water again, we are pumping no water.
I was going to ask, are we?
And we're early by a few weeks here. So
We've
we've
been buying
been,
water about every week.
we've had three or four loads in, and it wasn't enough to even fill what we needed. Nope. So, so anyways, so who knows? There may be more. And I'll speak at the board meeting about the grant that I just submitted 2 days ago for a water management plan. $50,000 grant, but that could also open itself and yield something to, if we get it, but yield itself to potential, federal grants. But even then, will we have enough funds to help support ourselves? Because that's not a fluke at this
I
point.
was gonna say, if there's no water, there's no water. It's gonna have to be a truck in all the
And that's what we're
time,
doing. And my concern is July, August, September, sometimes in
sometimes in
October.
October.
You're talking almost, what, a third of an entire
Mhm,
year.
mhm.
So, well, yeah, that's it.
I don't know. I don't know how to keep the money, but I don't want to spend any of it. I mean, unless it's an absolute dire emergency, unless we plan for it.
Because I'll just say you have different viewpoints of it. You have, whether it's in this brain or other brains where, and I'm gonna just speak very openly, like through contracts and things like that.
Mhm,
Once those things start to go up,
mhm.
Yeah.
you ain't gonna bring them back
It's
down.
never gonna come back
And my
down.
concern is if the timber funds are coming in healthy for the next 2 quarters or so, let's say in the fall, and the winter, whatever. Okay, we can give a bump here. Well, that bump there is actually a bump that's gonna stay for the next
Mhm.
20 years.
Mhm.
And if the funds are now gonna start appreciating after that point. So there may be some that think we're panicking and whatnot, but I'm looking out for the bottom dollar and I want to ensure.
Oh, I don't think I mean, for myself, I would not call it panic. It's just being aware of what's going to happen. And I mean, we've been harping on this for a long time. There is no more money. We're not flush like we used to be. I mean, we never had a money worry for a long time. I mean, and we've had to fight for every bit of timber revenue because they wanted to take our timber forever and ever and ever. And now that they have, where do people expect us to get the money? It doesn't grow on trees out here anymore.
No.
So, Corey, you've identified a really important risk that we're facing, and we do need to take action.
Mhm,
And some things, if we have somewhat predictable fixed costs,
Mhm,
we know we can plan for that.
mhm.
I think additional analysis and review, maintenance people and, people who have evaluated our water situation can give us some goalposts, nothing super specific, but some goalposts. And then I really like your idea, Tammy, of, making it part of the annual budget process so that we have, we can start, I think it'll take a couple years to get it firm, but we can start setting out some framework within which we would then agree to operate. And, I think we'll have to have additional work sessions because there's just no way to wait for an annual budget either.
No.
At this point,
Oh, yeah.
we've got work to do.
And the thing is, even if we were to know, okay, it's gonna cost this much for a roof. Oh, when they get in there, it could cost way
Yeah.
more than that.
Mhm.
So here we are,
Right.
we're down in, the dumper already. And then even if we were to plan, okay, now this is what we're gonna plan on for next year. Who knows what it's gonna cost? Even if we get a cost analysis as of right now, that doesn't mean it's gonna stay that way for next year or the year after. So we're gonna go up and up. It's gonna, like I said, I just don't wanna spend money because we're never gonna get it back.
No, and I'm not proposing that we do this immediately at all. I'm just something I just want to throw out there, especially as you said, with potentially if you get a grant or something for the roof or we don't, whatever happens to the water, because that now has gone through, due by the 15th. I got it in, like I said, a couple of days ago. Mr. Wood, our maintenance guy, Jonathan Wood, as you said, that's one of my discussions with him, is building up some sort of long range something so we can kind of see, as you said, the goalposts for that as well.
Yeah.
Also gives us time with the business department to find out where the HTP and the FMP thing is going, because there's still a lot of legal stuff going on with that.
Yes.
And I don't think we're out of the woods with
Yeah.
all that. So,
No.
I mean, we're still got a lot of tossing up the marbles and not quite sure where they're
It
going to
would be
land.
nice to see kind of a list of stuff that needs to be done
Mhm.
and kind of get a little bit of an idea of what it would cost to do this, and then prioritize what needs to be done. And maybe try to take one thing at a time unless something terrible emergency comes up.
So you're talking like a list of building,
Maintenance.
just maintenance stuff?
Mostly maintenance stuff
Yeah.
that has to be done. Contracts and stuff like that, I don't know what to do with them. That's just.
Yeah. Well, I think we can kind of predict in general where the contracts
Right.
are
Yeah,
year to year.
yeah.
And just be
Yeah.
mindful of.
So I don't even really want to talk, I don't want those, but major renovation stuff that has to be taken care of. Did we ever get the heating system fixed? Are we
That's
gonna-
one of the major issues I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Because now it's 80, probably 80, 85 in our offices.
I was gonna say, do you even have heat or cooling or anything?
No
Are you
cool-
dying in the
No,
offices?
we're dying in there.
Yeah, I mean, and we can't continue, that's gonna have to be fixed, you know, the water's gonna be fixed, the roof's gonna have to be fixed. There's regular maintenance that I don't wanna see put off, because if you do, it just gets worse and worse and worse and
That was
worse to
our-
where you're so overwhelmed, you can't fix it, so the school falls down and we have no school.
And then on top of that, our government, our Oregon government, puts, regulations out for us that are unfunded, and we still have to manage that
Yes,
too.
yeah.
So, and those can change, but what we know about, we could try to work into our plan.
But if we had kind of an idea of what needs to be done, ballpark it, I know it's not gonna be, very accurate, but at least we have an idea of the amount of money that it's going to take.
Yeah.
Okay, let's add these up, see what's in our, our fund, and kind of, so that
Yes.
we've got some kind of an idea.
So one of the first conversations I had with Mr. Wood this year when we got in was looking at all the major components of the district, specifically for safety issues for the district, but also things that run the building in general.
Yeah.
And in time for when we have to build that budget for next, the next school year, 27, 28,
Mhm.
that we have a pretty good foundation. There's part of the goal stuff. I'll just throw some things at you guys as well here. But like a long range facility plan or something, but again, that costs money, but in the interim, as I was putting something together, could we do something in the interim? Because we didn't budget for a long range facility plan for this coming year. I don't believe that's in there.
We budgeted for if we get that grant.
Yep.
And there's that long range facility grant. So we did put that in there because, and I looked for that guy again, and I asked people at the conference, who was he? What was the organization that they were with? And and I just,
Oh,
I
they didn't?
don't know who it was, but maybe John knows from his connections.
Mhm.
But, we are eligible for a grant, for that,
Mhm.
according to that man 2 or 3 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm sure we are still like over it, but I really like the idea. Cause like when we were building the budget this year, it's like, well, here's our needs. Here's what we think we're gonna get from timber revenue, and to make up the difference, to make the budget balance, so I really like the idea of the boards. And maybe this has to be an annual thing, looking at our reserves, where we're at,
Mhm.
and then saying, for next budget, I don't want you to, I don't want the district to go below, taking $2 million out of reserves or something, to,
So not putting necessarily a floor on it, but a limit of how much you can
Right,
take out.
yeah.
and maybe that is an annual thing, like the board will evaluate it every
Mhm.
year prior to the budget
Mhm.
cycle. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't. But it would be really great to have that,
Mhm.
um, and really in this year's budget, there's not much fluff.
Mhm.
Yeah,
There's there's no fluff.
No. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit of that, or?
Yeah.
So, Tammy, we don't have specifically the school payment for the fourth quarter timber reports, but the county stuff came out. And so, just based off of estimates, because you said the first year was how many percent?
The
16
first quarter was 16%.
of the county, and so the county received 3,531,712, and so we received 16% of that. And then the second quarter was 4 million, so it went up a little bit, 116,407, and we received 20% of that. This just came out hours ago here. Quarter three was even higher at 5,100,905, and we received 22%. And the last one just came out the highest so far, but not by much, at 5,427,571 for the county. And so county put in roughly, we did 22% of that, which brings us total to 3,730,209.09
For the year.
For the year. We budgeted 3,600,000. So we were, but this is, and I do believe this is pretty darn close to state school fund. I mean, we're knocking on the door
right
right there.
there.
So,
Yeah, and I was thinking if we're gonna do this annually, I think we should consider these these, dip into the reserve at the end of fourth quarter, since once we have the figures, and that puts it well ahead of budget
Mhm,
season.
mhm.
So that's fourth quarter for,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
because even
true.
when we do budget, we don't always have first quarter even, do we?
Usually, no, like
Yeah.
we're starting
So
budget.
that's the best we can do.
I mean, it's really to go after past trend and what we
Mhm,
have
mhm.
in reserves at that moment.
Which is again challenging because then history shows where you could think you're on and then
Exactly,
off.
right.
So how much less, and just kind of ballpark, did we get this year from last year?
Mm, mm,
Is it like 35% less or something?
And I told Tammy, it's been a while since we've had a final of 3 point, whatever I said, 6. Quite a number of years since that's taken place. I guess it's 2011 maybe. No, 3.7 is what we received.
So if we, what did I say? We would get 3 point something. So last year was 4.2.
Mm-hmm,
The year before that was 6.3,
mm-hmm,
4.7. I mean, this will be our lowest
Mhm.
year
mm-hmm.
if that number comes in, what I think, since
Mhm.
like 2018, 19.
Mhm.
So, and also we have to consider inflation and everything. The dollar is not going as far as it did in 2018, 19.
Yeah,
So, I mean, it's not a great number,
no,
but, I mean, like I said, I mean, and I'll be surprised if it's over the 1 point, what did I have on there? 1.19 or something. I'll be surprised if it
Yeah.
goes over that.
1.194, yeah.
I mean, but yeah. I mean, when I did budget, right above, and this is so confusing because I'm still closing up last year. I
Mhm,
haven't even, I couldn't tell you right now because we don't know
mhm.
how much we have in reserves now. I couldn't tell you that, based on before I have to move everything around and do the transfers and stuff.
But just seeing this, we cannot touch that reserve. Because, I mean, unless we're desperate, dire, gonna have to.
I'm thinking we're gonna have to use some of it.
Yeah,
Just to wrap
sounds
up
like
the
it.
we just did.
But we just can't be willy-nilly taking money from it. It has to be a big deal.
So we need to
take money
form a
from that reserve.
structure and a policy around that.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Something just maybe as really simple, yet not
Mhm.
simple
Yeah,
as, we
yeah.
will not use reserves for everyday operating
Right.
expenses. I mean, it
Right.
could just go toward, and that could be toward capital
Mhm.
expenditures,
Mhm.
or even, let's just say there's some initiative that comes out that everybody has to do some significant training or something. I mean, I'm just trying to think of something.
Yes.
I mean, something out of the ordinary that's not tied to
Mhm.
our operating
Right, right.
expenses and.
Now, I did bring this up with Pace Legal. Well, I think before school was out for sure, as I was starting to go down this mindset as we're going through the RIP stuff here in the district. But they guided me to our legal Miller Nash. And so I didn't want to spend any money on this until I knew we had more information, and I things up to you guys. But, it's something that has been bothering me since we've been going through this process, where even before the budget committee, I had that thought of, boy,
Mhm.
We talked about it a lot while we were creating the budget, like, we don't want to, but it's.
Mhm.
Here we are.
Mhm.
It came quick.
it
Yeah.
did. Yep.
Mhm.
So,
That will, yeah, I hate to even see that. I mean, I guess I didn't, until I look at that spreadsheet. Yeah, it will still be our lowest year
Mhm.
in quite some time.
Mhm.
Is it too soon to know about enrollment?
Enrollment, actually, so far what from Joni, from at least transportation, I know we received 2 or 3 more students in this week alone. So enrollment actually has gone up. Again, it's like my symphonies, enrollment goes up and then things start and then it kind
Then
of
it goes back.
falls a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
For sure.
I think we're around 110 or 112, which is, think about where we left though.
Yeah.
Last year we were down, I think we were down in the upper 90s. So,
Oh, wow.
mhm. And preschool, we have at the moment, I think, a couple more, so we're Instead of last year, they were down to 5, we're up to 8 right now.
Oh, good.
So preschool has,
That's almost a double.
so I mean, trying to look at that, going, okay, well, we have some new family, I'm not sure where everybody's moving in, but we have some new families and some new kids for sure coming in.
Yeah. Mm.
And attendance is just, I mean, you see it all over. Salem College, for example, just talked about how they're going to be releasing all sorts of staff. And I believe elementary schools, I think they're closing 7, 8, 9. I mean, quite a few. Yeah, because they don't have the students.
Mhm.
Been watching that happen. It's
So are
sign of
kids
the
just
times.
through it and not coming to school and parents don't care anymore? Are they homeschooling? Are they, I just.
Big jump to homeschool. There's been a big jump
Yeah.
since the pandemic.
Mhm.
And definitely the other one as well, which I'll could bring up another point as well. Because of a meeting I had yesterday with the district attorney
Mhm.
in the store yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, and it's just so unfortunate that, grants, I mean, we just had another grant that, $13,000 grant that we get for small rural schools. And, I was watching a video on it and it's like, it is this will be a segue into Corey's conversation, but these grants are tied to attendance and it's tied to, and so they use those formulas, to fund
Mhm.
not just the state school fund, but our SIA, our small rural schools, all of those.
Mhm.
So it's critical.
Mhm.
Everything's tied together.
Well, and it's so hard when you have parents that are so uninvolved.
I
So
think-
you're 6 at home, I don't care.
Well, I think a lot of them are doing the best they can.
Oh,
you
wait,
know, and
but it's
and-
still, it's not important anymore to go to school. That's what I'm seeing, that the parents don't really push to go to school. I mean, we went to school unless we were dead. Or unless you're bleeding to death, you went to school.
Yeah, and honestly, I think about how right before the pandemic, I believe, well, I know in 2016, 17, I think, we used the small rural school grant to do fund a teacher to do attendance protocols and stuff,
Mhm.
one period a day. Where's your
that's
student?
right,
What's happening with your student? Let's get your student in, and just like that whole
Yeah.
push,
Mhm.
and it was a big push. I
Mhm.
believe that's when Alice was here.
Mhm.
And then, and then the pandemic happened
Mhm.
and it was like, oh, if you have the sniffles, you have to stay home.
Mhm.
And,
Mhm.
I do think, talking with other people at other schools and stuff, I think that, plays a big role. Like, and I think we're making the swing back to kids are wanting to get into school and
Mhm.
parents are wanting to get their kids back into school. And it's also a problem with staff too.
Sure.
But I just think there was that big swing
Mhm.
and, hopefully,
Yeah.
hopefully with some of these initiatives that,
I think we need to toughen up again, not be such a wuss that, oh, I might have a little sniffle, I can't go to school. Well, yeah, you can, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, all
know.
the protocols for this COVID stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason we're not putting those forth in front of the districts, for voting and review, because they're not required anymore.
Mhm.
It was felt a couple years ago. So, okay, well, so for this one, and so for the reserve funds, I took down you guys' thoughts and notes here. And just assuming we're gonna be engaging in this conversation again as somewhere down the road this year, school year.
And even if
Yeah.
there's more reports or something or more information, I'll kind of give this some thought too, like it was harder until the end of the year, until everything's, balanced out to say like
Yeah.
where,
Mhm.
and we'll know at audit, like where we're at.
Yes.
Well, I guess right after audit, maybe that's when it's fresh in our minds, it's going into, okay, this is where we ended up. But we're almost gonna be, leaping over the current year. Does that make sense? Because if we're doing audit for the
Mhm.
year, but then we're already in the budget that we're in,
Mhm.
it's kind of, I don't know if that makes sense. But I just think there was that big swing and, I think we're making the swing back to kids are wanting to get into school and parents are wanting to get their kids back into school. And it's also a problem with staff too. I have to wrap my head around that, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Reconciling it,
Yeah,
because we'd be,
because we'd be looking at the next
Yeah.
year and we
right,
haven't even done this year yet, so we don't really
Right.
know. But we would still have an idea.
yes.
You know, I mean,
Yes.
none of this is gonna be cut in stone. Everything is
Right.
gonna be very fluid
Mhm.
to where we
Yeah.
can change it if we have to, you know, up it a little bit, or if we can go down a little bit. It's just gonna, we're
It's
just gonna
gonna
have to,
just have to be an
have to-
ongoing priority
ongoing.
that we don't
Yeah.
lose
Yeah.
sight or momentum on.
Yeah, and just open communication.
Mhm.
And I'll look more into what we are allowed to do, what we cannot, you know, I put in here, I just put a draft, it's not anything that's gonna show you guys at all, just a draft verbiage of, if we put something forth for the board to vote on, just this is more for my mindset to think about it.
Mhm.
But I did put in there the legality of, you know, what can we,
Right.
cannot do, and I can't say if it's a certain, we can or can't, but,
Yeah.
but I'll delve into those conversations throughout the, you know, part of the year here.
That would be very helpful for us to know where our guardrails are.
Mhm.
Yep.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're not gonna be able, the state's not gonna help us at all. We're on our own. We're on our
And
own.
I'll tell you the state school fund, there it is. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. Very important discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're back to, board goals, 2.3.
Okay, so can I be very open and honest? I mean, I try to be, I think I am all the time. So I just want this to be, you know, I know we're in the public eye, even though I don't think anybody's watching or here, but it is recorded. But you know, the goals ultimately, so this is now my 5th year. Ooh, I'm excited, you know, consistency. So I'm happy with that. So I feel like roots are growing a little bit more, but my goals are supposed to be built off the board's goals. And so yeah, I'm just gonna be blunt. I don't always know what the board's goals are all the time. So it's nothing personal. It's just as we go through our conversation throughout the year, I think, okay, well, you know, I'm thinking this is one. And I heard clearly like one would be the building. You know, that was one of the goals about, look at all my sticky notes. Give me a moment here. But I want to be able to see how I can guide this a little bit, but I also don't want to be just saying this is what I'm gonna do. I just want to throw some things out there. So I asked, you know, some guidance to help support me through some frameworks. And so, you know, there's 4 different areas I look at. So student achievement, obviously, you know, student growth, one academic, what was the other one? Attendance. I mean, that is a major one. You also referenced about attendance in my evaluation also. And that is something that all Classic High School districts are talking about. So, you know, an aspect of that bucket would be, in my mind, hard to ignore. Another one is the fiscal operations. So, you know, we've talked about, you guys brought up also, can hear earlier on, a number of months ago at one of the board meetings, talking about the facility and making sure that we have a building that's safe, clean, you know, whatnot to build here. And we have an opportunity with a brand new maintenance guy who I feel is very strong and very honest. That's how he communicates to me about his vision and his things for the district. And will he get the work done? If I ask specific things, I think he will definitely do that. So I think you have an opportunity right there also to potentially build, which then would give me direction, and then I can sit there, put implementation. And you don't have to stay for all this, really, but help guide me through that aspect a little bit, so I can steer in a direction that I've been foaming for a little while. Climate culture. So we've also been working through climate culture with Galen Emanuel for the district. We're going to continue that. It did hit a pause when the RIF process happened. In my personal and professional opinion, yes, the RIFs are hard and challenging, but at the same time, you know, that climate and culture also took a hit, which further showed me the work isn't done, because that should help buffer some of those moments where we're in a professional environment. That should help buffer some of that. There's also, you know, that does have an impact on our students. How else can I say this? All this has impact on our students. But if your staff, you know, if the culture is challenging for staff, sometimes that's hard because it feeds down to your kids here. And then the other one is governance and community also. And so I look at it as the 4th pillar, and that's transparency. That's what we're doing here in my mind. We were doing something that in my time in the district, I don't think a lot of these have taken place. And, you know, I'm thinking,
We've never had a work session since I've been on the board. And it's just driving me, when I first got on, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, I would love to see work sessions and doing just
Mhm.
exactly what we're talking about.
and so for me, that, and I'm only speaking from my perspective, but obviously the board's goals as a whole, that was another opportunity also that, well, there's a place where we could really get some feedback from audience members, because nobody here right now,
Mhm.
nobody there right now, but that's, you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't want to disrespect this, because that's just where we're at right now. The other thing about governance and community, the other aspect of community I mentioned to you about a strategic plan, which again, that's going to come up here also. It's all kind of intertwined. But the strategic plan, in my mind, is already going to happen regardless if we do the strategic plan through this beautiful document called the integrated guidance, which is huge, 175 pages worth. And the part of the strategic plan is based off of hope I don't use too many acronyms, but it's called the CIP, the CIP, the Continuous Improvement Plan, to continuously improve different aspects of the district here.
So where did that come from?
This is ODE. This has been around for about, maybe about 8 years or so, give or take here. We've been following plans. You guys have voted on SAA, high school success, all those things. That's all embedded inside this giant document. But there's opportunities for board goals also where there's a lot of community engagement involved with these things. And I've watched the first administration go through with a little bit of community engagement, and then another administration go through with very little at all. And then my very first year in the chair, which there's a lot going on, a lot of change. I'll be blunt, there wasn't a whole lot.
Right.
Wasn't a whole lot. There's a
Well, just
huge,
look at our last few meetings. Nobody.
there's a huge amount of stuff in there. So there's an opportunity also there for community engagement. You know, as I'm going through this, student achievement, fiscal and operations, there's climate and culture, and there's a governance and also community. Those are some of the buckets, some of the things I threw in there. One of the questions, and I just threw this in an AI thing to help guide me through it with the little time I had. So one thing we could also do is, what is one thing we need to start doing as a district? What is one thing we need to stop doing? And what is one thing we should continue to do? Okay. So it asked about, could we throw those items out there also and see if anybody had some suggestions? You know, it could also be a workshop where you don't have to answer this now, but we can get together and get a poster board out, and we literally just start throwing ideas out there and just popcorning. We do that as a staff all the time. And over time, you're going to start seeing trends come through. You'll start seeing what people are all kind of narrowing in on. And then once that is done, I hope this makes sense. There's things called SMART goals. We use these all the time in education. I remember when I first started in 2000, 2008, I didn't know what this was, but simply auditorium with Debbie Brooks and Jerry Jones, I believe, if you remember those names. We were building SMART goals. And fresh out of college, I'm sitting going, I don't know what these are. But so they stand for something. S stands for specific, which is define a clear outcome without micromanaging the daily operations, but define what you want. Measurable, how are we going to measure what we're going to do? In other words, how are we going to pull the data on this thing to make sure it had some sort of impact? We've done that with our, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing for the behavior.
I'm tracking
Oh, yeah,
here. Yeah.
you beat me on that one. On the behavior stuff. Achievable respects the boundary of what the board is, governing basically, and then how it's managed by your administrators in the building. And then relevant with the impact of the resources, money, the time we have. It needs to be in place there so we have some sort of end game with that as well. And then the time bound, the checkpoints throughout, how we're going to check what we're doing here. So I just threw some ideas out there, and I'm just going to throw them. One was under attendance. And this is what a SMART goal would sound like. For the 26-27 school year, the district will reduce overall chronic absenteeism across grades K through 12 from whatever baseline we have from last year, the previous couple of years, wherever our baseline average would be, to whatever our target goal will be by June of 2027, with the board receiving quarterly. And you and I have talked about some things about how we put attendance and numbers and whatnot and ADM on our board opening agendas. With quarterly monitoring updates on attendance trends and targeted early intervention strategies. What are we doing? Basically, so these would be non-negotiables. They are in the board stuff hopefully every month or every other month.
I would love that.
So therefore you can see it being delivered throughout the whole year.
Is there some way we can modify that and put it on the staff?
Well,
Go ahead.
can I just piggyback on that? If we have that on there, in the board packet. And I always say, everything I say is always second to student achievement, student success, and student safety. I mean, I just,
Sure,
that's,
sure.
you know,
Mhm.
but this will also give us an idea of where our funding could be heading,
Mhm. Mhm.
state school fund,
That's good.
Mhm.
grants and everything, based on what we're seeing in enrollment and and daily attendance. And, so it does all tie in together. And then that would also help drive our budget
Mhm.
too,
Mhm.
because,
No, you're
Oh,
fine. You're
yeah.
fine.
because during like all of my budget workshops and stuff we go to, the very first thing they say is, you know, your budget should be a reflection of your board's goals.
Mhm.
And so then if we have these clear goals, then, and maybe we're not meeting, you know, then there's money in the budget to get somebody to
Mhm.
dedicated for
Mhm.
attendance.
Mhm.
That's
Something,
a very good, very
You
good
know.
point. Yep.
something, so, I mean, it all does tie in together and it's just one big cohesive,
Mhm.
well-oiled
Yes.
See,
machine.
and I like that because it's not I got you. We didn't succeed with that. It's like, okay, now we can,
Where are we gonna steer our
yeah,
resources?
we can see
Mhm.
what's,
Mhm.
where,
It's a
you know, where we fall
dynamic
through.
type of managing as you go.
Mhm.
Right,
Mhm.
Mhm.
that's important.
So I'm only sharing these ones because these are on the top of my mind. So I just want to throw them out there. Another one is the fiscal operations. So by April, this is just a example, Sparkle. So by April 2027, the district will establish a preliminary 3-year capital improvement and maintenance plan
Mhm.
for the 27 through 2030 budget cycles by completing it in, this is where I said whether we budgeted or not for this, by completing an internal K through 12 facility audit, prioritizing critical repairs, integrating upcoming capital initiatives. I see the greenhouse as one of those
Yeah, right.
examples coming in,
Big one.
and presenting a multi-year cost projection to the board.
Mhm.
So therefore it makes planning for a long duration down the road. So that's
Mhm.
another one, which is something, again, I would be foaming at the mouth. So that's another example. If you have if there's too many, just yell at me here. Climate and culture, so Galen Manual, stage 1, we did introduction of shared language of what
Right.
good culture looks like. And so we were trying to implement stage 2 last year, and we actually got to the point where we were able to share and get ready to literally begin stage 2, and then the rifts came in and it stopped. So throughout the 26-27 school year, the district will execute stage 2 of the Galen Emmanuel Cultural Drop Framework. I think that's what it's called, across the district by embedding core cultural skills into staff meetings and leadership practices, resulting in a 10% increase in positive staff sentiment on mid-year and end of the year culture surveys. And to me, that's challenging because you're dealing with emotions here. And anything could trigger this. And
See, as long as everything is this way, it's
Correct.
gonna be fine, but if you,
Yep.
it
And
could just
so-
go off the
So I
rails.
put that there, but that's harder for me to swallow.
But it's still an actionable framework within to
Mhm.
do stuff.
Again, it accounts that things are
Yes.
moving forward, it's being talked about, it's
Yes.
being discussed all the way to the top level, even at board meetings. So I felt it was important to throw that out there. Another one is governance community to enhance public transparency and board, okay, about work sessions here. To enhance public transparency and board governance, the school board will schedule and conduct at least one dedicated public work session per quarter during the 26-27 school year, publishing agendas and supporting materials at least 72 hours. I mean, I know there's laws around what that time frame is in advance, and sharing session summaries, recordings on the district website within 5 days of meeting.
Yes, I think that's great.
But once again, this shows transparency,
Mhm.
openness, and we're opening, inviting people to be part of what we're doing here.
That
There's-
sounds like it should be standard operating procedure.
You would think.
You would think, yeah.
You would think.
The last one I threw in there was, this is around the integrated guidance, this beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay, it's good stuff in there. It's a lot of pages. Okay, to fulfill Oregon Department of Education, OD's integrated guidance requirements and inform our four-year continuing improvement plan, that's the SIP. The district will design and execute a comprehensive public engagement process by March 2027. Now this I underline because it's just, there's many ways you can do this, but an example is hosting at least 3 targeted listening sessions and achieving a 20% increase in survey participation across key stakeholder groups, which is important verbiage for the integrated guidance program.
Okay.
So that is your students, your families, staff, and then the focal student population. And for us, that is high poverty students, and then usually in the special education world, disabilities, those kind of things here.
That's like a subset of the student.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep. With engagement findings presented to the board prior to the final approval of the SIP. So no matter what, the board gets to view all this, and sometimes I hear individuals quietly over the years say, being on the board, I don't have as much whatever, say against some of these things, but when you review all these things, you can hold any one of this as a board and say, oh, wait a minute, we may not agree with this direction. But also through this process, as I'm looking at this, the district can also invite boards, as long as it's not a quorum. We can invite, 1 or 2 individuals who want to be a part of this building process for the district. And when I say there's, I'll get to that in a little bit because I don't want to get too far ahead. But there's a lot of components in this side of this thing that really have a great impact from the board oversight of saying what is the district putting upon its community, which is a requirement by OD. So, but those are 2, 3, 6. Those are 6 things that I'm throwing out there. I'd be happy to share them to you in a little document and give you these 4 pillars and whatnot. I don't know, we haven't done this before, so I didn't know how you wanted to go through this or start this process.
Wasn't there some kind of committee that was formed from the community and staff and who were gonna give like regular updates, and they were gonna kind of like give the board updates on the culture climate?
So it's that would be a version of the equity
Okay.
committee per se,
Yeah.
which I talked to ESD because we don't have anything specifically. I know Sam put something up again later in the spring about getting interest from people. He said there were some within the building, but he didn't reference that there's a lot of interest from the outside of the building. But this would be a great start. If this is going to have this year, this fall, going into winter, this is going to be put together. And I talked to Brian Bain from the ESD. He was actually helping us put our longitudinal growth target goals together, which I shared with you. And attendance is another one of those that's on there. But this is also on there. And so he provided a lot of pages of framework of how to build community input in sessions and tabs on the Excel sheets and whatnot, or whatever you call it, spreadsheets. So this is something I can't do by myself. I've got to have some work with the principal and a couple other team members here in the district.
We can't be the only school district that has the problem with community, not voicing and not.
I mean, like, my kids' school district, I couldn't say, I don't know, but, for the size of the school district, I don't think the doors are breaking down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know. And that's a hard one because we do want our community coming in. I'm excited by the fact that we have 3 applicants for chair.
Yes.
So that gives me more avenue. I mean, one of the applicants is somebody I've been reaching out for a couple of years in a row, because there hasn't been anyone volunteering to jump in. But my hope is with some of this excitement, that maybe those individuals can also spread the word of,
Right.
come on in. Because we're not trying to hide anything.
Right.
And you're invited to come. It's because a lot of people, I think, don't come because they don't feel welcome to come.
But I don't know if they don't know what
Yeah,
goes
They
on
don't
here.
even know what
Yeah.
happens probably.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys have anything with this specifically. That's just where I thought I'd at least start. I didn't know if it was okay to get out the little poster board and here we go. If that's something we want to do another time. This is my opinion. You can disagree, obviously, but I don't count this as a quarter meeting. I count this as our summer prep moving into the year. So we vouch for hopefully
But
fall
yeah,
meeting.
I can see a work session for each one of those stickies. Everyone.
I agree. So anyway, I'm throwing it out there. Do you have any other things around it? And I can send this to you guys.
Yeah, that's great.
Just let you know.
All right.
Oh, that was meaty. Dense stuff. That's good though.
I'm quite hungry, so don't start talking about
Oh.
food. Yeah.
All right, 2.4, board safety training.
All right, so we are moving from, is it Public Works, I believe, to Vector, which is part
Yes.
of PACE. So we pay for this safety trainings, plethora of the trainings through a PACE. And so we have made the switch, and it's kind of refreshing. Does that make sense? When you do something for so long over time, you just kind of get the monotony of everything. So it's kind of exciting. But it did lead me down to some things. Also, there's some things that go on with electronic stuff and emails and things and phishing things. And now I'm thinking, okay, the board, you have your own individual email addresses also. So you may become potential victims of things that we are
Yeah.
experiencing here.
The whaling, isn't it whaling? When
Whaling,
it's the big, when you're the big fish.
that's correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Remember that for safety.
Mhm.
So I threw some things around here. For example, one of the mandatory ones is Oregon Public Meetings Law training. I know that's a requirement. So those are high priority ones. The Oregon Government Ethics has another one also, which, when we talk about these, the board operating agreements, the board does deal with some, can be dealing with some pretty intense things. So we got to be aware of those two specific ones. And then we also talk, there's some training potentially through PACE about employment practices liability. So if there's anything that ever comes forth in front of you guys, such as RIFs or employment matters that are pretty big, we want to make sure you have some of that component as well. One that we, I know one of our candidates had talked about from an incident before, but sexual misconduct awareness. We have done very heavy lifting in the district with training and mandatory reporting on those things. And excuse me. I personally feel also that it would be great to have the board have that same training that every one of us has here as well. That's would be important. And then another one, which is Addie's Act, that's the youth suicide prevention.
Okay.
You guys see people in the district sometimes. And I just feel like with the laws around mental health, which has been a very big thing in schools all across the country, but with where we're going with our mental health services here, right behind them. Behind the wall there. That is one of our most well attended things, the school-based health services that we utilize. You're going to see me also bring to you some discussion about some counseling services through eTherapy. We contract through EduStaff, which is our subbing organization. Well, they partnered with a group called eTherapy. And so looking at potentially bringing in some therapies, counseling services to them on a weekly basis at a virtual level, but it's another support that's not to this level here, if that makes sense, but it provides some support. So there's a lot of components around that. And then going through some training a couple of days ago also about risk assessments and all the scary things that they're talking about with youth all the way down to 12-year-olds and some shootings and just.
Oh my gosh, when they're talking about those shootings in Portland, you're talking 12, 13, 14-year-old kids. I'm just dumbfounded.
And a lot of that was around bowling,
Wow.
things taking place,
Still.
mental health, things that families, there were signs, but families maybe didn't recognize them. Some staff, students didn't recognize them. Now there's dead. But you get to a certain point and people handle things differently. So that was one. And then the other one was FERPA, which I want to be very clear on, that student, information privacy and rights and whatnot. And we, as a board, as in a small district, because our student population is so low, they're so small, it's very identifiable. We have issues also, we have recently, also when we have the public, I know I'm speaking about this openly, but when our public is speaking about specific staff members here, even if it's positive, in like public comment sessions, those by the rules of how you govern boards shouldn't be taking place, because that causes problems.
But how do you stop them? I mean, when they come in and they're,
That's
Well, that's where the chair
that's
has
where the
to
chair, yeah,
be assertive.
the chair
but
needs to
even when
step
you
in.
do, then it's gonna be you're shutting me down.
It is, and that's
Yeah.
something also I've had discussions in my own head about the political
Yeah.
capital of that aspect. You could be setting yourself up for something like that.
Couldn't we have like a board, like where they sign in and just very plainly, like we need to comply with these rules and, you know, no names, no identifiable
I mean,
information.
it can be mentioned right before, as we're reading, you
That's
know,
right.
public comment, here's the rules, and here's the clock, here's the time you have.
That's right.
That's not the district's. Therefore, you take that, it's not the district having an issue, the board having an issue. It's the rules of how we conduct business.
Mhm.
All school boards in Oregon.
And
then
it's
we can
not,
be
and it's not
consistent.
us picking on you.
Right,
This is the rules.
Yeah.
right.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying this to detract anything that's taken place prior, it's just,
Right. Well, we can, organize it better so that we inform them and then we become consistent enforcing the guidelines
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
policies.
mhm.
Yeah.
So those are the areas, you know, and also, you know, mentioning the email and all the, you know, the whaling, you know, the fishing, whatnot goes out there.
Mhm.
So I was wondering if the board would be open to that kind of environment. I know it's a number of trainings. I don't know how they all are provided, if it's all done through PACE or, you know, or
Yeah.
Vector.
I think so.
And if not, we need to provide them in another avenue or not, but it'd be something where I would hope we could send them out and you
Mhm.
take them on your own time if you're in agreement on that.
I think that's important. I don't see how we could function effectively without taking advantage of that, really.
Mhm.
Of course, I mean, I would send things out to you guys and you guys would make the decision, obviously, but
Right.
I would happily help guide
Good.
beginning of that so we can start off the year well.
Yeah, agree.
Well, I'm just asking this because I don't know, but because I know board members are mandatory reporters.
Mhm.
Do you have to go through training every year on that? Are you supposed to?
There is some online training and then I think at a certain interval, there has to be in-person training as well.
Cause I can send, I mean, mandatory, we have Kinsey Nix comes out and she's all,
Mhm.
and she comes in once a year and it's everything's online. So if you missed it, I can send those out.
Mhm.
And
Well, and it's like when we went to Astoria for
Mhm.
what it was, I don't know what.
Mhm.
But there was training in there.
Mhm.
You
Okay.
know,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
well.
Yeah, it was the SAM training.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and that's when field trips just.
Oh, I remember that now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
At the board meeting?
yes, just sent me up, yeah,
It was like, oops, we had
yeah.
no awareness till
Yeah.
that class.
I mean, there was a lot of being unaware until
Till that.
we went to that, yeah, yeah. So.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I, for one, am prepared to put in the extra time and work it takes
Mhm.
to build our capacity. I
Mhm.
mean, we've got a lot ahead of us, so we need to build our
Mhm.
capacity and function.
Mhm.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I mean, I really appreciate
And I can
that.
also throw out there with our insurance, with the SAM insurance, again, this is stuff I've talked about with you guys in public. When you're spending extra money for overseas insurance, and I like to be able to showcase to our, you know, our Brown people here,
Mhm.
all the things that we're doing, because at some
Yeah.
point,
Mhm.
I haven't had a chance yet in my mind, but to reach out to PACE and say, what are the steps that are gonna allow us to get back some leverage to come
Yeah,
on
yeah.
back?
That's what I was just gonna ask,
What
when
is
are
it?
we gonna be out of this high risk pool and what do we have to do to get out?
And I don't think there's an answer yet, at least not,
But at least in one more
Rubber.
year, probably.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, yeah. But I like to have those discussions,
Sure.
as we move forward, because I want to know what those little notches we have to,
Mhm.
because there's gotta be something. You can't just be, well, we decided just out of the whim, you're good
Right.
this year.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. And then our strategic district plan.
okay, so I had a whole, you don't want to hear all. So, you know, I only speak about this district because it's my wife's district and it's next to where I live, but they hired the Education Northwest was the company that hired to come in and help them do the strategic plan. I had printed off all this verbiage and whatnot, and they have it on their website. It's this beautiful circle and some 4 little components about what that looks like, what it means. But then when I had Brian Bain out here to talk to me about our longitudinal growth targets coming in there, actually, the whole ESD was out here, about 6 members of the team.
Really?
And I was talking about, you know, can we help build some sort of support? I don't know if, you know, can I bring the board involved with the strategic plan? And they said, well, Brian Bain again said, well, you have this document right here. And inside this document, I'm going to go through them, is the continuous improvement plan. And that is a requirement for the district I think it's every 4 years, every 4 years. And so we are due, we're really due for building this for this upcoming year. So it's a broad system planning for the district. Every day matters. That's attendance. So, and we already talked to some about that one. Addressing chronic absenteeism. That's districts all over here. High school success, boosting graduation readiness and college prep. We've been doing a lot of work on that and we are doing well. I really believe we're doing well with that. This one you hear all the time, student investment account, the SIA. That is very specific for utilizing funds specifically for targeting equity gaps. I want to make sure that's very clear. And student mental health. And so when you hear me talk about people coming in and engaging with their community members, specifically local groups, we're talking about high poverty and some other word I cannot remember, but IP and all those, that world there. So that's what I'm referencing. It also includes our early indicator intervention systems at EIIS. So utilizing data to find struggling students easy. And we get $300-400 for that. Was not very much, but that's also important because we have changed one of our staff members to the RIFI aspect, who is now going to be an interventionist for our K through 5th grade. One of our strongest people here in the district. So we have one of the highest levels of intervention supports that you can imagine for our district. I'm really excited about that role of it. The newest one here, Early Literacy Success School District Grant. So that also came out. So that's strengthening elementary readiness, actually reading benchmarks across the district. And so that's been almost 2 full years, I believe, here. CTE, career and technical. So that's also a side of here, funding vocational hands-on career pathways, which again, we have been pushing a lot for. And then there's 2 more, which we don't talk very much about: federal school improvement, which is allocating targeted support for federal funds, and then statewide equity plans, adjusting local tactics to sync with Oregon's broader student success initiative. I'm not sure what that entails. I have not jumped into that one. And it says, furthermore, under Oregon's updated performance growth targets, and those are requirements that came out and measured. I worked with Brian Bain on them before I went on vacation time here. Those are requirements by ODE, and they are going to evaluate every district in Oregon on these goals. Districts are required to align their local planning with state accountability metrics. So those metrics will need to align with this, which then aligns with the whole everything else that we've been talking about. So for the strategic planning, hope I'm able to keep myself on track here. On here, let me see. Okay, so for the next 4 years, we need an assessment and planning window. So that's coming up. That's the fall of 2026. The districts are going to undergo their next comprehensive needs assessment, the community engagement process, and board level strategy formulation to build our 27 to 29 integrated application, which is including the SIP. So this is building our strategic plan. This is all about building our strategic plan. And so through that process, I'm pulling back a little bit thinking, do I need the board to actually put a strategic plan together? Because ultimately what that is that's taking this and packaging it. I don't know if I put it here, but it's packaging it and making it accessible for our community to understand. As I start throwing all these acronyms around, if that makes sense. No, I mean.
People, I got to say,
I know, because when I'm presenting, I can tell it's no fault of anybody. There's just so much to catch up on. But this aspect of it, that would allow us to take the work we've done here and then package it. And whether we bring somebody in, I think honestly, with some assistance with artificial intelligence, if we've already done the work, can we not help it package and brand it a little bit more, get it out there so it becomes a tangible document for our community to see for the course of the next 4 years, which I would not see this finalized until the spring, because it would be voted upon by the board in the spring of 2027. And so, boom, we wrap up the spring, formulate what this could look like through the rest of, May and June, maybe a little July. We get ready to start the 27-28 school year. And as we're pushing in, here's our strategic plan for the 27 through 2030 school years, or 31, whatever it is going to be here. So I just want to throw that in there because I was a little misguided in my thoughts about this organization coming in and working the Education Northwest and working, but the work is already going to happen. And we've done this before. I was told though by ESD, instead of 9 initiatives, it's going to grow to quite a bit more. But they haven't seen the documents yet, so I haven't heard anything. So I just want to throw that, what is that?
How many is it right now?
9. I think it was going to be up to 15 to 18.
Yeah, I've kind of heard the same thing.
So his big goal is to make it more easily connected and guided, but it's fine. I get it, but it's a lot.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's why I had thrown in one of my personal kind of goals for potentially for my goal with the district is that's a lot of community input right there.
Mhm.
Again, if we reach people and they'll want to come out and help and support. So I just want to throw that out there because I don't know if you guys, if you're comfortable hearing the strategic plan or the continuous improvement plan. Those are words where I want to get feedback and get you engaged with them more than me coming up once or twice a year and say, here's the draft, and then I need you to vote on it.
Mhm.
So you're part of the process, so I can at least give pretty regular updates with the community members, hopefully some capacity involved with all this.
Mhm.
I personally need and appreciate the ongoing discussions about it. It will help when we evaluate your performance and when we're making our goals, and it's all integrated.
It's not easy or fast. I mean, this is
No, this
a
is,
lot of work.
you have all this and used to how the rest of the district stuff.
But when I think about what you are presenting here and how they all work together, it will sort of be organic how we end up
Mhm.
bringing in the community, and over time, they're gonna get acclimated to interacting with us and understanding that they can just come and what they can do and present to us, and having a listening meeting for the community is a wonderful idea.
I'd love to have people hearing us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everybody,
Mhm.
hear what we're talking about.
Mhm.
I've been here for my 20th year. I don't hear these conversations. So
Right,
I'm hoping they've been happening. I'm not saying here, but behind, in other offices over the years. I hope they've been happening.
Mhm.
So. All right.
Okay.
okay, so that is okay, so now we're back down to 2.7, student attendance. Oh, no,
Vacancy selection
sorry,
process.
thank you.
So
Board vacancy, but we don't have much to do there until
Well,
they finish.
the only thing I need to express is because we have 2 more candidates.
Yeah.
And after we were looking at the board, you have it there?
Yeah.
It has to be done in a public
Mhm.
session.
Okay.
So,
Mhm.
I know, Elise had mentioned one of the candidates could meet Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but it's not gonna happen because by law I can't. And so my recommendation to the board, and I haven't had a chance to talk to TJ about this, is to do it on the board meeting day itself, schedule it there, have the interview, and everything's gotta be up and open.
Mhm.
And, the board would have to make a decision in front of public at the same time. And Tammy,
But
you can read it if you wanna read that sentence or two.
we can't make a decision the same night that we interview the 2. Is how are we gonna just vote on the one that,
Unless we had an executive session as well.
yeah.
It says, we're reading this. We did read because we were surprised.
Because I like to have a discussion and talk about all 3 of them before we make a decision.
So
The board
that's,
selection of a replacement must be made in a public meeting, and
Right.
meeting minutes must record each board member's name and vote.
Right,
Oh.
but that's just after we've made our selection.
see, and that's what I wanna find out is, does that discussion, if you guys have that, let's say, for example, an executive, is that allowed? So it's not done, which I would imagine it
Oh,
should
there's a
be.
section on it.
I don't see how it wouldn't, but that's where we have to finalize how that's gonna take place
Mhm.
to make sure that's good. And I'll run that by legal 100% to make sure
Because I
that's
can
fine.
see, voting on the person that we select, but I cannot see having a discussion like that, discussing private information about these people in a public session.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with that
Yeah.
at
I
all.
wouldn't be either.
But then the actual decision would happen in.
Yes, yes,
Seems reasonable.
yes. Now, we can't make a decision in executive session, but we can come to a consensus or at least,
Well, before
have an
we hold our
idea,
vote, yeah.
and then someone would have to make a motion to, we're gonna select this person, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, that part has to, but I think the discussion has to be an executive session.
Cause that would that could yield itself to some really bad
Yeah,
moments.
Yeah.
Unintentional.
Sure.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
So
mhm.
I'll clarify that because I
Yeah.
believe that's how it is, but I'll clarify.
And the
that.
only thing that I could see that might have an issue is if we needed to get some additional information and then have to table the whole thing.
Mhm.
But maybe not, but that is potential. I mean, we could potentially have not make a decision on
True.
August.
That's
Now,
true.
this does say,
That's very true.
we can have an executive session. It says, the governing body of a public body may hold an executive session to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. So would that be, or the public officer, would that be employment
See
of?
that part?
Oh,
When I
See,
hear
we're
what-
not employing.
That's what I was,
No, that's
got
the
my attention.
public officer. What's a public officer?
You. Corey.
Officer?
but they also said individual agent.
That's what I was thinking, individual agent. I don't know if we
Umbrella.
are classified as individual agents.
Oh, to also discuss a nuclear powered thermal power plant.
Oh.
or-
Well,
Yeah,
That could solve your cooling issues in your office.
But that doesn't solve our water issue.
no.
It does say water, actually, to discuss water.
Okay,
Oh, hazardous substances is defined by petroleum products, sewage, or water. Interesting, I know.
Well, or excuse me, Monday morning, I'll send that out
Okay.
to Police Legal and just say,
Thank
can
you.
you guide us on that one?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
so the other two candidates, we need to interview at the next board meeting. That's
They
kind of
would have
where,
to be able
They'd
to
have
be
to attend,
available at that
correct.
board meeting.
right, and so if they can't, that's
That's-
equivalent to withdrawing their application. I don't
Yes.
know.
I'm assuming, because at a certain point, I mean, it's up to the board, how long do you want to wait?
I did find it.
Oh.
It does say, wait, let me make sure that's. It says, the filling of a vacancy on a public committee, commission, or other advisory group. The filling of a vacancy in an elective office.
That's,
So.
Okay.
There you
so
go.
they're saying we could have an executive session on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
it says well, I will give this to you. How's that? But, because I'm just kind of reading bits and pieces of it, but yeah, it sounds like you can. Yeah, it sounds like you can. Yes.
Okay.
So we'll wait to get the final word from you.
Thank
you.
But yeah, it does sound like you can, but maybe just not make a decision.
Right. We can't make a decision, but we can come to a consensus on who we would like to nominate and then do their vote.
That's what it sounds like.
But yeah, I don't want to have to do a public,
That would be awkward.
that would be very awkward. Yeah. I didn't like the way she walked in, I mean, who knows, but yeah, okay. Okay.
All right, then our 2.7 is student attendance district ADM.
So, I mean, we talked, Tammy had mentioned also like the ADM, attaching something just to attendance in terms of here's how many students we have, just keeping that up front on the board
Mhm.
agendas, just make that universal every month. So
Sure.
it's not hidden at all. But student attendance. So I was in Astoria yesterday, 1 o'clock at the district attorney office. She's the new district attorney for Clatsop County. Dawn Buzzard, I'm trying to remember her name, so Dawn Buzzard. And I won't go too much into it other than, there's an article you may have seen that has been out there at some point about Malheur County, has instituted a new, maybe it's an old policy for them, but an ORS, that allows for attendance ordinance citations for
Mhm.
students that are not attending
Mhm.
school.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it's on families. And there was one, this was eliminated, Senate Bill 817 eliminated in 2021 by the state of Oregon, because that was something you could do in the state of Oregon. They eliminated it. Attendance is a major issue across the state, chronic absenteeism from students. And a study just come out recently that shows one area in the state of Oregon where attendance is just skyrocketed is Malheur County.
Yep.
And this is what they've been playing with. And so we have, as a school district, all districts here, we have our local level of how we handle these situations with families, and we have our resources and whatnot that we use within the county to help guide and support them as best we can, if they're open to receiving those supports. Beyond that, there's nothing in the middle, other than it gets to a level, I don't know if it's in here, it's called ORS 163577, in parentheses, 1 little c, which is a family to supervise a child, which is more of a, that's a legal situation that goes to the courts. So it goes to the extreme over that far. And there's reference that doesn't really hit very often in the county. And so basically we were there with the discussion about, is this something that we could implement here in the county? And so I took a lot of notes on this thing. But it also depends basically, number one, on the courts, municipal courts, the circuit courts, and then also administrative hearings officer. We talked about all aspects of that, and whether a place is incorporated or not with the city limits, because that also would play into it. And so ultimately what we need to know is, will the judges meet with us? Which is something that's the next stage right now, is to meet with the judges to see if we could discuss with them about what we think the caseload would be. And I'm looking at Joel, like, it wouldn't be very large for Joel. And how often would that take place? 1 or 2 times, maybe a year total, with all the other counties involved, or maybe 1 or 2 a month cases that would need to be heard. So that is our next step, to go with that aspect, to find out, would they be on board with handling some of these cases? And it wouldn't be the goal is not to make it a punitive financial thing, but it is more or less a support for families where before the fine would be held over them, but it would never be actually implemented, as long as they're willing to take some supports with county supports, whether they can work with districts on different, whatever things to help them through the process. So that would be the end result, is we don't want to put that fine on there, but it's a caveat to sit there to basically require families, parent guardians, to work with agencies in the district to get the kid to school. And if it doesn't happen, then it goes to the other way, which then is the fine. And in Malheur County, they said, it's on here or not, this is what, oh, here it is. In Malheur County, they built a county ordinance in 2023 to address the exact gap after Senate Bill 817 died. And so their results were in the 25-26 school year, 47 citations were issued across 6,000 students in addition. So 47 were issued, and only 1 actually was sent to collection for a fine. And their K-12 regular attendance rate rose from 69.7% right after the bill was closed to 85.7% in 4 years. So that's a hefty
A difference.
17 over, a little over 50% jump there, which is now ahead of the state average. With that growth holding up across the higher need student groups. So now you're looking at, again, going into this document, again, it's all connected, which is your focal groups of students. And then there's a discussion about, well, would this be seen as potentially, in my notes, I put somewhere about, would this be seen as a negative thing? And we're hitting a very specific population within our community. And again, the goal is to how we communicate in the framework, the idea. But it's a long road ahead, because it would need to be discussed at all board levels, for all boards across all counties. I'd have to hit the county commissioners, and it'd have to talk about, if for us, for example, we wouldn't, according to one of my discussions and emails today, it wouldn't be able to hit the municipal courts for Joel. We'd have to be able to hit the circuit courts because of our location over there. Is that something that's doable or not? So there's a long road ahead of us. Our next step, I said, is the judges, and we're going to then start discussing about priorities of what happens after the judges, who we meet with after that, and just making sure the stakeholders are in alignment, that we have a vision and a pathway to potentially get this off the ground at the end of this upcoming year for next year, for the 27-28 school year. Because this is a lot of work to be done here.
Yeah.
And so once again, whether this is board or not stuff or goals, but one of my goals is to go down as our fellow superintendents, because it is a very high priority for all our districts' attendance, and discuss. Well, our other concern is, what is chronic absenteeism? And one of the trends that we're coming up with is the building and the classrooms may look full, but really Susie, on the makeup names, everyone knows Susie over here is absent for 4 days, but all of a sudden is here for a week and a half. But while Susie's here for 4.5 weeks, Bobby, Billy, Joe, whatever is over here is now gone for the next 4 or 5 days. And then he comes back in, and the next person is gone for 4 or 5. It's just constant ebb and flow of students.
Mhm.
So we see the ones that are always gone, but there's enough students who are missing consistently enough time. And even a story said, how can some of our graduates miss 18, 20, 25 days of school and still get through just fine?
Mhm.
I mean, what Craig Office said, their kids can miss 19 days of school a year, and that's considered just making it through. That's a lot of school.
It's a lot of school.
It's a whole month.
Mhm.
So I just throw that out there. I don't know if you guys have other thoughts about attendance and whatnot and where we can go with this. Tammy mentioned one of our previous teachers years ago was tasked with this
Mhm.
job.
Mhm.
But for me, we've got to figure something out.
And as far as absentee, I think it's a family situation more than a student situation. And for us, it's not hard to identify the families that need the help, but do they actually accept the help that we would offer to them to get, that's the biggest problem.
But it's so one-sided, when you get a little bit of teeth to enforce it, that might
Yeah.
really make a difference.
And I look at in a pre-K through 12 building, our 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds have no control if they're going to become.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, and generally you don't. As you get older, there's, again, as superintendents, we talked about that, where there may be some challenges when you have someone who's 15, 18, whatever, who is just adamant, I'm not going to school.
Mhm.
It's a little different animal to play
Mhm.
when you have other ones who are definitely in first, second, third grade, and some of our lowest attendance in the district
Mhm.
is coming from our elementary.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
from a parent's point of view, can I say this?
Mhm.
I think we would have to identify the reason,
Mhm.
because, or it might be a family thing. It also could be, separation anxiety. When kids have been out here and been attached to, like, I was just, stayed at home with my child
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
all the time, and then putting them into school was all of a sudden like,
Mhm.
so even starting as early as really, not punishing attendance by any means in preschool, but like encouraging attendance and
Mhm.
building that, I think we have to get to the root of
Mhm.
why are they absent? I saw in the health room, it's across from my office, and a couple years ago, there was one girl that was constantly in that health room during a very particular time. And it's like, somebody needs to go talk to her and see. It was PE.
Mhm.
And, she was
Mhm.
not feeling comfortable in PE. Somebody getting to the root of
Yes.
why these
Yes.
kids,
Yes.
and I think that might go a long ways. And with the mental health,
Mhm.
with the counseling,
Mhm.
like we say, everything's going to be kind of
Mhm.
intertwined.
Mhm.
But we might find that, some of the interventions that we can do during school.
Well, you're talking about that. We brought that up also about the why.
Mhm.
And so then, obviously, this was not a point of discussion, but once again, attendance matters is in here.
Mhm.
So there's that community input, student input. It's all in there. And so all that stuff, as you said, really
Yeah.
does.
But still, we've got to also, if we identify the
Mhm.
problem, we've got to be able to offer resources,
Right.
either
Right.
through us
Right.
as a school or resources from the county.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to get a little, not with you, but I'm going to get a little firm because I did at the meeting yesterday also that when, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. But when, in some cases, when we put our foot down and we expect these resources to help support our families where they really truthfully need it,
Mhm.
and they don't do
Oh,
that.
that's,
And then, and it's obvious that has a great impact on that child.
mhm.
And we take the brunt of that.
Yes,
That's not okay either.
No.
And so our county
No.
supports have to be able to function and
Yes.
support
Yeah.
the districts.
Mhm.
And I was very, very open about
Good.
that yesterday.
because just because we identify it, oh, this is the problem, and then we walk away, that doesn't solve the problem.
And the idea also that, yeah, well, that's, we know. I don't want,
No.
we shouldn't just say, yeah, I know. As a collective, as a county superintendents and boards,
Right.
we need to put our foot down and say, no, we are done hearing that response. We need some sort of action to support us through.
Yeah.
Because it's, I gave an example. I just said, you know, we have students who you can tell they're struggling, and then next, you know, things change in lives, and all of a sudden they're attending, and then all of a sudden the world comes back, the old world comes back, or, you know, things are back to where they were. You know, that's not okay.
Yeah.
It's just not okay.
And it can't be all our problem. You have to help with this. I
And these
mean, we've
resources,
got to be a community.
well, the expectation is we offer the resources to these families.
Yeah.
Our hope is these families, and if they do take those resources,
Mhm.
they're getting taken care of.
Mhm.
That's it. I mean, there should be
Right.
no question. They are
Mhm.
getting fully taken
That's
care
right.
of.
Mhm.
Thank you, not what?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I kind of pushed on that as well, because there's
Mhm.
some things here that we can really truthfully do as a community, as a whole,
Mhm.
and as a district. But it also goes beyond us.
Mhm.
Even
Yeah.
like, even, you know, I mean, like a resource fair out here,
Mhm.
you know, I've seen where they say that, um, food pantry visits are up and stuff.
Mhm.
Well, okay, I think we're back to where we were, I'm gonna say maybe 2011, 12 maybe, when gas prices, I'm not sure if that was the year, but gas prices were high like they are now.
Mhm.
People have to make a choice.
Mhm.
You're gonna fill your tank, or you're gonna drive to Seaside to the food pantry.
Mhm.
Bring the resources to us.
And how
And
many-
it can't always be on the school.
And how many of our students are the bread maker for the families? They're
Yeah.
holding the fort down.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Is there a mobile food pantry?
There's not.
I don't think of one, no. Don't think of anything.
Mhm.
Although there are backpack programs where, and I've talked to Martha on some of these things, but I think it's Martha, there's some backpack programs where, no, actually it was our principal, Sam, excuse me, Mr. White. There, you bring some things in, and specific students, at least, or he would work prior, last year, where, you know, how our identification process was. And on Friday, there was a backpack that would be just quietly brought in the classroom, had the kids' names on. Everybody kind of knew, but nobody didn't make a big deal about it. Kids, grabbed the backpack, put it on, got on the bus, went home, and then the only requirement was to come back with an empty backpack on Monday. And they would just put it back on a hook. And throughout the week, stuff would be put in and filled in, and Friday, the kids got on the bus, went home. It was just normal.
Mhm.
It's just normal, but it was to help support food and clothing.
And it is great, but you know, other areas have resources, whether it's churches or other organizations that fund that.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, it's just like nothing that, you know, we can fund.
We got the McKinney-Vento, I mean, the
Right.
homeless.
Could that be a
stuff.
class project?
Yes and no. Okay, this is.
I know it's a lot of work.
Well, this is what I was told before, and it does make sense, especially in our small community.
Mhm.
You don't want students,
No, I mean,
you know,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, because I know that at one point our, whatever class that was, Mr. Anderson was doing Honor Society, I think, was it Honor
I
Society?
think it was, yeah.
Somebody was doing,
It was.
I tried to, but there was that, you know, the idea is to help but not create more of a stigma or
Mhm.
anything
Mhm.
around that. And, you know, and I know that, I had worked with Norm McLaren, who has done the bike donations and stuff, but he really spearheaded the food pantry out here. And I think that was in the year, that's what I was talking about, the year 2012. I really think it was about that time when, yeah, there's a lot of hurdles,
Mhm.
and it's sad.
Mhm.
It's sad that there's so many hurdles to
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
feeding people.
Mhm.
Yep.
Because I know we have a very desperate population for food. Clothes, clean clothes,
Yep.
because
Food
it's just,
insecurity. We
it's
have
just
a
the-
beautiful clothing closet
Mhm.
here,
Mhm.
beautiful clothing
Mhm.
closet. You know, and that just might be something too, is having a resource fair,
Mhm.
showing parents and students the resources that we have to offer, but then also trying to get those community partners.
And I know we have the emergency preparedness fair also coming out here in October. And I can talk to Jen Munson on that one. That's part of what the plan is also,
Mhm.
come out here. I look at the garden, I know it's down the road, but we have a huge garden that we'll have to talk at the board level. But I can see that being pushed out there. I know there's a community member out here that also has a lot of land available who would like to be able to use that land to help support the community with food as well. But yeah, we're a few years away from that for sure.
Very good job.
You guys have anything else?
There's a lot. We've got a lot
Yes.
here. Well, I appreciate that, all the work you put in, Corey.
Mhm.
This is what I
Yeah.
sleep about. I gotta say this way. Yeah. Used to be when I was younger, it used to be video games and movies and.
Oh, those days are
Those
gone.
days are
gone.
Vacation, okay.
All right, so, I think that we got through the agenda here. I don't need a motion to adjourn, do we? Not-
No.
we're not-
No.
yeah,
I
okay.
just, maybe in the August board meeting, if it's okay, I'm just suggesting, it'd be great to set another.
Yeah.
Session.
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right, well then we
Okay.
will adjourn today's.
The
board
gavel-
work
gavel's
session.
still
Oh,
sitting
there we
there.
go, okay. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Call.